Join us, Alex
and Colleen,
self-proclaimed fake it till you make it experts, as we navigate the highs and lows of being a woman and how the pressure and overwhelm of trying to do it all often leads to feeling like an imposter in our own lives.
On today's episode, we chat with Nicole Lapierre, esteemed photographer and multiple business owner, about her professional journey and how it shaped her unique approach to overcoming imposter syndrome.
Hi, Alex.
Hi, Colleen.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I have a question for you.
Okay.
So have you ever taken, so first of all, do you have your phone there?
Yes.
Grab your phone.
Somewhere buried in here.
Okay, grab your phone. I want you to tell me go to your photos and tell me how many photos do you have on your phone? Can we tell that just from clicking on albums or something?
Yeah, I have 17,971 items.
17,000? How many videos?
Almost basically 18,000.
That's videos and photos.
Yes.
Okay, where does it say?
Mine says it at the top here.
Mine doesn't say it. I have a ridiculous number as well, and normally it would say it, but why I chose to do this little task and then it doesn't work for me is sort of how life goes for me.
I have 5,000 selfies, it says.
Where are you looking at this? And normally I could see. You have how many selfies?
It says 5,000. That's 49, 10.
Alex.
So 90 more. I'll take those today.
Take those today. So we are getting so accustomed to taking photos off our phone, and you do such a great job of it. But let me ask you if you've ever taken an actual photography course.
I have taken amateur hobbyist photography courses. But I don't my mind doesn't compute things when it comes to photography. So I've taken those courses, but I have not gotten any better.
They don't stick with me. So I've also taken them. I've got a graphic design diploma, and one of the components of it was to learn photography. So I bought this phenomenal Canon camera. I also have a lovely Fuji camera. And I took the courses, but to remember, it doesn't stick in my head, this whole aperture and all of the buttons that you have to press. And I inevitably put it back to auto every time. It doesn't go in. I also am not great with light. You're way better with light than I am.
No,
in your videos.
I'm good with natural light.
Artificial
lighting, forget it.
Right?
My brain doesn't compute it. I've tried so much, but it just doesn't work for my head. I can't figure it out.
Me either. And I also can't sometimes, people see things differently than me. Like somebody will take a picture. I'll be at somewhere and they'll take a picture. And I'm thinking, how did you see that to know that was going to be phenomenal? And I can't do that. I'm just whatever. I take stuff and every now and then something shows up good. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm brilliant. But
same.
Okay.
I mean, I don't really ever think I'm brilliant about it, but I pass. Some of my stuff is passable.
Passable. Which is why we have people like Nicole Lapierre in our lives. So Nicole Lapierre, welcome to the mic.
Thank you for having me.
Nicole is one of my favorite photographers. And I guess what I want to say is if somebody were to place a number of photos in front of me, I can pick out your work.
Really?
I see your work, and it's something about, there's a passion in there. There's an experience in there. There's, I don't know. Tell me about your photography.
I would have to say that when I shoot, it's very much intentional. You can take tons of pictures, as you were saying, trigger shoot, pick the best one. But for me, I will often observe the situation for a majority of the time, 75% of the time, before I'll actually ever take a picture. Because I want to read the room. I want to feel what's happening in the space. I want to intuitively know what that person is going to do next. And I can't do that if I'm not paying attention to those things. And I find that brings out a better photo if you are paying attention to what's happening around you and then taking the picture.
So you see it, you can read it.
I think that I am hypersensitive to a lot of people's behavior. And I can sense people's insecurities. I can sense people's self-confidence or lack thereof. And it really helps to do that first before you start shooting.
Neat.
If that makes sense.
Well, it does. And I'm typically uncomfortable at a photo shoot, like very uncomfortable at a photo shoot. And there's nothing to me greater than when a photographer is able to settle you down and bring out the best of you and make you look the way you really want to be seen, you know?
And so if you think about being in a seat ready to be photographed, if a photographer walks in, is really, let's get this done, versus wanting to sit with you, wanting to understand what you're doing, wanting to understand why you're here in this chair in the first place. Because 9 times out of 10, if someone's coming to get their photo taken, but they don't like to have their photo taken, there's a reason. It's very rare that I ever encounter anyone who loves themselves so much that they just love having photos of themselves and they just sit there and it's
Alex,
perfect.
she has 6.
That's me. Are you saying that's what I do it for?
How many selfies do you have?
Yeah, maybe I do.
Yeah, there you go.
But I do think that we're also very self-critical. So it really makes sense to understand what it is about that person that they feel nervous about. And then that takes away the anguish and the feeling that you're in the hot seat and sets a tone for the rest of the time that you're together. And you think people want to get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of photos back. That seems to be a thing. I do notice that a lot in the wedding world. I don't shoot weddings anymore.
I didn't think you did. Yeah.
No, I stopped shooting weddings in 2022. And it was really because of a lot of things. A lot because of the expectation of wanting to have thousands of photos of your wedding day versus having quality photos of your wedding day. So I taught myself how to shoot film with a medium format camera. And I translate a lot of my digital work in the same way that I would shoot analog. So when you only have 14 frames per roll of film, and a roll of film costs you $100, $120 from start to finish because you have to have it processed and scanned so you can see it on your computer, then those 14 frames have to be very intentionally taken. And I do the same thing digitally so that I don't have to go through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pictures of the same thing to get the best ones that I want. And I feel doing that tells a better story than just dumping thousands of pictures onto someone. But that's the way the world is going. The more, the better. And they're losing touch with, well, remember back in the day when you'd go through your grandparents' photo albums and there would be just one or two photos of a night out that they were having the time of their lives. Like you saw your grandmother and your grandfather when they were young and they were at a party. And there are literally 2 photos in the album of that night. And you can almost feel like you were there because there's so much being said about those 2 photos. But then at the same time, there are only 2 photos. So there's a whole lot not being said. So it leaves a little bit to your imagination. And you can kind of make up your own little story of what happened in that time in those 2 photos. Our photos, our parents' photo albums, there's not armloads of photos in them. There's very specific, intentional shots of certain memories or certain instances that were, to them at the time, relevant to be captured.
So I get what you're saying 100%-ish. So 90%. I get what you're saying because it is true that we're just sitting there during any kind of an event now with our cameras going click, 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 video. Like we're taking so much content rather than maybe being there.
Present.
And then afterwards you're looking back at the photos and you're reliving the photos, but really you were the person behind the camera the whole time. So it's
and
a
then all
little
you
bit of
see
an
in the
odd,
photos is everyone else with their cameras out and their phones out, and you're like, ew, it's
a little
gross.
bit strange, right?
Yeah.
It's a bit cringy. So
I
we
mean,
need to
if you even look
switch.
back at those photos ever again,
You
Right.
you have 15,000 photos
Yeah.
on your phone.
most of those are
And-
work.
Well, it's
Yes,
a lot
of
of work,
course.
yeah,
But
true.
still, there are a lot of photos on people's phones that
Yeah.
were just taken because sometimes you just feel like you have to, or you won't remember. When if you actually sit in that moment and take it all in, you're going to remember it way more than you would if you have a few photos of it.
I always loved taking photos from a young age, and I still have at my place rolls of film that were never developed because it was so expensive to develop film. But I kind of wish so part of me wishes I is happy I didn't grow up in an age of all of the social media and the
Yes.
photos and stuff. But the
Same.
other part of me wishes I had some photos of someone, because I've forgotten some of these moments with friends through the years. And I kind of wish, like I look at what the kids take pictures of and I'm like, oh, you're kind of lucky that you get down the road, you have all these photos of friends. I don't have any. Like the 10 that I have are very, very treasured photos, like you said.
Yeah.
But I kind of wish I had more.
But
you know?
what are they doing with those photos after that technology is gone? Think about what we have. You have rolls of film that you haven't developed because it's too expensive.
Yeah.
What's going to happen when 15,000 photos turn into 50,000 photos? Because where are they putting them? They're in a cloud, or what happens if there is no cloud anymore? Where are those photos? How many photos are you actually going to print physically to have? How are anyone's great-great-grandchildren going to see any of those photos?
Well, because you're right. We're not printing them. And recently, I actually had, when my kids were little, I had all these frames with pictures in them throughout the house. And I was sitting in my apartment one day and I thought, there is not a picture in my apartment. I don't have photos. They're all on my phone, but I don't have photos of my apartment to be surrounded by that love.
Like
right?
we would have been when we were kids.
Right. So I actually went out and picked some of my favorite photos, printed them, framed them, and they're sitting on all of my end tables now. And it feels so nice to have those around me, and I think that's, I think everybody should give that a try.
100%.
It feels nice.
I think there's a lot of people who still have family photos. Like we have a huge wall of family
Yeah.
photos.
You do. You actually
I've got photos
have.
all through my house.
Yeah.
So I don't think that no one is printing
No.
anything
Yeah,
anymore. But
no.
I think you're right. It's hard to decide what it is you're going to actually print.
But I feel, and I can speak from experience, my son is 26 and he's not out printing any photos.
Yeah.
He has nothing. He's not printing anything.
Two of three of my kids have printed photos on their walls. And it's so nice again to walk into their homes and see their
That's nice.
experiences and adventures on display. It's nice. Yeah, we need to print more of that stuff that's on our phones maybe.
Yeah, or just be aware that you have so many images, and why do you have them? Like, are you going back and looking at pictures from 3, 4, 5 years ago? Or
I do. I look at a lot of them. I have an album right now of my granddaughter. So every picture I get of my granddaughter goes in this one album on my phone. Oh my gosh, I have so many photos. And you're right, though, that some of them it's like 5 or 10 of the same moment. But, her face looks a little bit different. And like I don't think I could delete any single one of them right now. She's only 4 months old, but I couldn't delete any of those. But yeah, you have such an eye. You have such a magical eye when you take photos. It's really lovely.
you.
Yeah. So I'm sure we're going to get back to photography in your career here in a minute, but I want you to tell us about your journey, like your career journey and how you started, how you even got into this photography.
Photos have always been very prevalent. My dad had a camera, a Pentax, that he would take all of our photos with, and it was very much a manual camera. You had to understand your aperture and shutter speed and ISO, all of the things. And he always had it out. So I was never one that would take pictures as a kid or anything like that. But my father always had the camera out and he was always taking pictures. And we still have that camera. I still have that camera right now to this day, and it still works. So it's a 35 millimeter. I haven't used it in years, but I did use it a lot in my teens and would take a lot of photos of my girlfriends and a lot of photos of our nights out. And I would be the one that would have a camera all the time on me. And so there are a lot of our escapades that have been recorded, just not posted anywhere on social media, thankfully. But I do have a lot of images right from being young because I always loved to take pictures. Now, my father was you need to go to school, you need to get your education, you need to get a good job. And it was very driven. He was military. He was you have to be the best. So finished high school, went to university, got a science degree, all while having a very small child because I had Vatican when I was 21. So in year 2 of university, I had a baby and nobody else had a baby. It was weird to have a baby back then, but he came to school with me because I couldn't afford daycare. I was in school. It's just what you do, what you have to do. And he basically did the degree with me. We joke about it all the time, but he would sit there and just stare into the abyss and listen to the professor and not make a fuss. And so I did that, graduated. Took me a little longer because I had him. So I did it part of the way, or did it half the time, and also had a job working and did both for the remaining 4 years until I got my degree because I didn't want to hear my dad say, well, listen, I knew you were not going to make anything of yourself. I told you had a baby, that was going to change. And so I was really fighting hard to prove him wrong. So got my degree. And I have a neuroscience degree, a psych neuroscience degree. And then I thought, well, what am I going to do with this? Because what do you do with that? And I knew I had to work. So I applied for a job as a receptionist at a gold mining company and got the job. So it was right out of graduating. I got this job, started working, really to just love the administrative. I love to be organized. So I loved the administrative stuff. And then I started moving up in the company and then becoming more of a human resources.
As you do sometimes with small companies, you find your way into.
What's driving me now, because great, you have a paycheck but my loans are paid off. So what am I doing? So then the next thing was, well, let's get a house and the things that you do. Mm-hmm. But I could feel that things were shifting inside of me. And then Teddy and I got married in 2009, and Trevor Allen was our photographer.
Okay.
Great person. Love him. And I really loved watching him work that day. And he was just so energetic and he loved everybody. And he really made it look fun. And I said to Teddy, I think I'm going to start shooting. I think I'm just going to start taking pictures. Why not? And I can make money on the side and it'll give me a little bit of creative happiness. And he got me a camera and I literally started taking clients immediately. And then in 2010, I applied to be on the government standing offer list so I could work with Communications Nova Scotia when they were at capacity and had to outsource photography. So I started doing a lot of stuff on the side, taking my vacation days from my day job so I could do daytime things with the government. And I was working every weekend, every single weekend.
Well, you do if you're doing weddings and family shoots and stuff.
And then I just started realizing that was more what I wanted to do versus being in an office and being just really, really pigeonholed in an office. And I loved everybody I worked with. And I did do it for 4 years, both.
Oh, wow.
And then in 2014, I decided that I needed to break away from the corporate world and just do this full time.
It's a tough jump, going from, I mean, it's a big decision to go from that career corporate to going out on your own and freelance and a creative job.
Yeah.
You know,
because money's not always busy.
No.
And you have to be able to live with yourself when you go through a period of 2 or 3 weeks where you don't have any jobs.
And we also grew up at a time, and this is where for a lot of people, a lot of creative people, the imposter syndrome comes into it, is we grew up at a time where, like you said, you go to university and you get a real job. Like creative jobs were not jobs. We were not encouraged to be creative. So there's an awful lot of people in their 40s and 50s and older who really didn't have that opportunity to express themselves creatively, you know? Looking to relax and rejuvenate? Treat yourself at Bello Day Spa. Located in the heart of Bedford West, from luxurious facials and brow services to soothing massages, waxing, and perfect manis, pedis, their team has you covered. Bello Day Spa isn't just a place for pampering. Their friendly staff will help you find the perfect skincare products from their wide selection of premium lines. Ready to refresh your routine? Book your appointment today and discover why Bello Day Spa is your neighborhood go-to spot for relaxation and self-care. Bello Day Spa, your local relaxation retreat. Talk to me about when imposter syndrome started setting in for you. Have you always had it? Have you?
I feel like I had it early on in the transition from corporate to photography full time, because who was I to think that I could just, leave this job that I'm doing really well with. I'm respected. I'm getting promotions every year, to going to this and thinking I can make enough money to support myself and be good. And I struggled because you do compare yourself to the famous photographers.
Right.
And you're like, well, how did they get to there? I'm nowhere near that. They are photographing celebrities. Like, how do you get to that point? You know, and then you think, oh, I'm never going to get there. So what's the point?
I do love, though, that you're at your wedding and you're watching Trevor Allen. And instead of going, I do, and thinking of all of the dreamy things about my life with the man I just married, you're like, God, I want to do what he's doing.
I'm like, I can start this business. I think I could do this.
Right? See, weddings bring out the best.
I mean, Trevor Allen is very hard to miss.
Right.
Right. He's like 8 feet tall. So
he's big. Yes.
I watched him all day long, but I really thought that it was possible for me to do this. But then you always hear voices in the back of your head thinking, well, how are you going to, you're just starting. You're not even professionally trained. What are you doing?
So did you even ever go in as like a photographer's assistant or anything? Or you just went right to Nicole Lapierre photographer? Yeah.
I did. Ted created, because Ted is a designer.
Yeah.
He created my logo, and he had business cards made up for me at the printing house in Burnside, and we went right to it.
That is fucking bold. Like that, that's pretty...
It's awesome.
Bold to just go, I'm a photographer now, and like it or lump it. And then people are hiring you, and then you're, you have it would have been a raw talent there. I mean, you saw things differently than
I feel like I just had more, I wanted to not fail. So if failure was my only alternative to not failing, then I wanted to not fail. So I think that looking at the different imposter syndromes.
Which one are you?
I would say that I'm the superhuman.
Superhuman?
Yeah. Because I love to learn. I want to know everything. I want to know how to do everything.
So the superhuman measures competence based on how many roles they can both juggle and excel in. Falling short of any role as a manager, team member, parent, partner, friend, volunteer, all make you feel bad if you're not doing it, if you're not doing it all.
Because I have a mentality of anything is possible. Everything is possible. You can do anything can be done.
So you would have felt bad then leaving the corporate world.
I did. feel really bad leaving the corporate world. And because
Did you feel like you failed it? Or did you feel like you just ran out of time? Like it ran its course?
No, I feel like I was over it for 4 years.
4 years.
Well, because I started shooting and I loved it.
Yeah.
But I realized I had to stay because people counted on me. And I, for a very long time, because we were such a small office, was the only one that knew how to do certain things.
You didn't want to let anyone down.
I didn't want to disappoint people.
Yeah.
I didn't want to lose that family. I loved traveling to Mexico and being with the employees there. Like, I loved all of that. But I kind of had turned myself off. Like, I was grieving that job probably for the last 2 years of being there.
Sure.
And tying up bows and passing on information or showing people how to do something right up until I decided. And I gave notice. I gave lots of notice. I think I gave them like 6 months notice. So I feel like that chapter closed up really, really nicely for me because I didn't just abandon them and start something new.
Alex, did you feel similar leaving corporate world to pursue?
Yeah, I think most people know when they're done before they leave. And start to kind of make moves towards getting out. And I was very similar too, that it had run its course for me. It was not giving me any kind of joy anymore. And it wasn't even able to be creative, even though I was corporately creative at that point, because there's just so much red tape and politics.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
I think there's always definitely it's very scary to transition into being your own boss and to have to manage cash flow and schedules and client acquisition and retention and all those things. But if you're really not feeling like you're challenged at all corporately, then it's kind of, you have to make some moves there. So.
Yeah. And I guess you always have this fallback that, well, if this creative stuff doesn't work, then I go back or I get another job. But to me, the idea of getting a job is like off the table now.
Yeah, it's funny because after I left, there's no way I would ever go back. I knew immediately I would never go back to that. So I didn't have a choice. I had to figure this out. And when I start something new, and my husband can attest to this, because I call him Captain Safety, and he likes to mentally masturbate everything before he does something. And I will just
go.
Oh, okay. So this is the tool we need? All right, let's figure it out as we go. So I'm a figure it out as we go. And he's a, well, let's just read every manual front to back in every language. And then
it's very similar to my relationship with my
every
husband.
screw and count every washer and make sure we have them all. And I'm just looking at the pieces.
You guys must be real fun building IKEA furniture together. That's how they say you test.
I don't touch it
because Matt and I have a very similar relationship that way, but we build furniture together pretty well.
I let him have that. I let him rock that. I just look at it and think, too many pieces. So I think you're capable and I know you're going to do a great job.
Good for you.
And he does do a great job. He never fails. He can overanalyze things to the nth degree, but he's always perfect. And I will just jump in like a bull moose. That's just the way that I am with the measuring.
I'm a jump inner also.
When we're like, it's about.
Yeah.
Like,
I know I do that too. Girl
it drives him so mad, but he always goes, like when it works out. He's he's supportive of my tenacity, but sometimes he has to like hold me back to say, okay, can you just see it from my perspective for a second? And I'll humor him. And I'm thinking like, I already can see this put together. I know that goes there, that goes there, that goes there, that goes.
I'm always I'm building a gallery wall, right? Like you've got all the you can imagine your home is filled with gallery walls. It's fantastic.
I don't have the attention to detail.
To me, building a gallery wall, you just start putting things up. I'm always blown away by people that are like, measure this. How big's that frame? Where's that going to hang? I'm like, stick it up there.
Yeah.
If you put it in the wrong spot, you make another hole. Like,
when I lived by myself, everything was crooked.
I'm a big fan of the 3M Velcro strips.
Yes, those
Right.
are awesome.
Because you can just do
Just move
everything
around a little.
wherever.
It's great.
But Ted has the laser level, and I'm watching him, and he's measuring, and then it's mind numbing sometimes because I'm thinking, okay, they're the exact same frame, but the backing is on the back part that connects to the inside. So what if it's just off ever so slightly by like a half an inch or a quarter of an inch? Once you hang it, it's going to be lower than the other things. So why are you measuring it from that?
Right.
And then he'll be like, you're right. That is actually a good point.
Right.
But we complement each other in that I go full tilt head first and he does not. But we seem to have figured out the system of when either personality works.
I like that. I think that's how marriages work. I think it's the give and take and the two. I mean, if two people are the exact same person, it's kind of boring, isn't it?
Oh, it would be very boring.
That would be boring.
Think about how long it would take to put IKEA furniture together.
Can you imagine? You're still reading
never
manuals. Yeah.
I'd be on the
together all
German
wrong.
version.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not good. So as a superhuman then, so you're out of the gold mining business, you're into photography, you're now married, you've got your little guy. Life's pretty good for Nicole. What else are you doing in the superhuman world?
Well, then COVID happened and I was 6 years footloose, fancy free, doing photography, loving life, making my own schedule. And then COVID happened.
Yeah.
And we weren't allowed to even see our parents. So photographing somebody would be a no-go also. So a lot of things shut down for me. But I still felt like I had to contribute. I need to contribute. So there was no negotiating in that. And I thought, well, what am I going to do? So I opened a online plant and flower shop. In 2 days, I built the website. I went through, I had all the photos. I did everything. I took the photos that I didn't have and I threw everything together, posted it. I have a shop now.
And it is a beautiful shop.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But we didn't have time. We just had to do it. It had to happen because there was no income coming in. And with that shop, it was ideal because you could just go and drop something off on someone's door and leave. So you didn't have to have contact, but it was still generating income. It was May of 2020 and stores were still open. So I could still get my suppliers to bring things to me. And it was just perfect. And it aligned really well with my life because I love plants. I love to garden. I love flowers. And it seemed like a really easy segue into kind of putting shooting on pause because I wasn't allowed. Government said no contact. So it was good. And then COVID kind of like backed off a little bit and I had both on the go and I still have both on the go and I love both. They just feed different parts of my soul.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. The plant business is beautiful. I always notice when it's Mother's Day coming up or Valentine's or whatever, and you're posting about these bouquets that you're getting ready to present, and they always are different than anything else around. They're quite lovely.
Thank
You've
you.
got, again, an eye, and it's the creativity. It's the artist in you, that you can really, you love beige.
I do love beige.
I did not know there was such a thing as beige. Well, I know beige, but like brown roses or brown, like you get
taupe.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
pretty beautiful. Your bouquets are gorgeous.
Thank you.
Yeah.
There's a lot of sourcing that goes into that.
Let's get back to imposter syndrome for a second, because you, as a superhuman, this is all working out for you. Imposter syndrome is making you do things, is making you not want to fail, and it's pushing you. Is it more pushing you than a negative thing, or do you often sit back and go, what am I doing? I don't deserve this. I don't
In the early days, imposter syndrome, it would be a comparison to other people. I would be comparing and wondering if this was how they did it or wondering if this was the right choice or all of those things. But as I got older, I started turning that comparison inward a lot and comparing myself to myself 6 months ago, a year ago. And it became less about other people and comparing other people and more comparing about me and my journey and how far I've come. And do I still want to be in this same place in a year? And if the answer is no, well, what am I going to do to change that?
Mm.
I felt like comparing myself to others was not doing me any justice, when really I had to look inward and just focus on myself and where I wanted to be and be accountable in the sense of checking in to see if I'm even getting anywhere.
Mm.
So I think in the early days, it was imposter syndrome drove me because I was self-conscious because all the things I was doing were very new to me and I wasn't a professional in the sense of years experience. But then once I figure something out, I feel like, okay, well, that's that. Why do we have to have 18, 20 years experience of doing something in order to
Be
feel
considered
validated?
worthy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's really, I just compare myself to myself.
I like that.
I kind of like that too.
I think it's a good way to to flip the switch or turn the narrative a little bit.
Mhm.
And I think as you get more established, you tend to then look back and say, okay, now where do I want to go next? Where do I want to go next? So
Yeah.
I think even just thinking about it that way, because I think I do that a fair bit too. But I don't know that I'd ever really thought about it in terms of comparison to myself. So I
Yeah.
think that's really useful.
Serving up hot brews, refreshing cold drinks, lots of fresh baked goodies, and delicious lunch options. Visit the Mellow Mug in the heart of Larry Utech for dine-in, takeout, or drive-through service. Their spacious cafe offers a casual and inviting vibe that's perfect for everything from enjoying a good book, hanging with friends, or meeting a colleague. The Mellow Mug is your neighborhood spot for great coffee and delicious eats and sweets.
And I do think that in the day and age we're in, with respect to social media, and everyone is only posting the good things and posting what's happening in their lives and how amazing they are and all the things, it's noise to me now. Whereas before, I felt I had to keep up and keep up and keep up. And now I barely ever am on my phone. Like I don't even like it near me, if that makes any sense.
It doesn't to me, because mine is sitting like right here next to me.
Yeah.
But again, I manage social media accounts, so it's a little bit
Yeah.
different because, and same as Alex, we work in social media, you
Yeah.
know. So it's
But
a bit
even
different.
then, when do you make time for yourself and your own brain to just rehabilitate from the constant dopamine depletion?
Yeah, it's hard, and we're both working on that.
I mean,
all
I
the
don't
time.
usually look at my phone at night. If I can help it. I try to, be done with it, especially social media, because it is too much. It gets to be too
it's a
much
lot.
and you can just spend too much time in it. But yeah, it is definitely tricky when you have to kind of be engaging. But
Yeah.
Well, and as a business owner, and Ted and I talk about this all the time, if I'm not posting, I don't make a sale.
Right.
So I really have to be strategic with when I'm interacting with social media for my own health and also for my business health.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I've heard some people saying, I've had a couple of people say to me, why are you even on social media? Why be on social media? Why? It's because we run businesses. We have no, you don't have a choice. You can't just in this day and age, Mother's Day's coming. You can't just sit back.
Yeah, we're not putting
with
an
your
ad in the
lovely
yellow
flowers
pages.
doing nothing, right? Exactly. You just can't expect that. And I mean, some word of mouth and all that's great, and past customers is great. But if you're trying to reach new people, new customers to grow, you've got to be there.
And it's free.
And it's,
that's what I was going to say.
To a point.
And it's particularly visual. So if you work in industries where visual has an impact, it can really make or break your business.
Absolutely.
And it is free unless you're paying for ads, but it's a free way to get in front of a very targeted audience. So, I've been working in marketing and advertising for 25 years, and you just couldn't do that when you started.
No.
It had to be kind of throwing things globally and seeing if anybody caught it. So there's so much merit to it, but again, there's a lot of danger and a lot of angst that can come from spending too much time within it. So it's a delicate balance.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And the angst and stuff comes into all the comparison and paralysis and the addiction of it. I mean, it's an addictive
like the dopamine
place.
hits
The
is so
dopamine
true.
hits. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't miss it anymore.
Mm.
You know, I'll put it in a different room and just forget about it. Or Ted will say, I was messaging you. I'm, oh, sorry.
Yeah. You and Ted love nature.
We do.
Yeah, you love getting into nature. And just as you can capture a person and photograph a person, you can capture a moment beautifully. And, you know, it's so nice. Like sometimes I'll see some nature photographer you've put out there and I'm like, oh man, that like I'm in this spot. I could feel myself
But you're
there.
still capturing life in
Yes.
nature.
Yeah.
Right? It's trying to capture the mood versus the picture.
Yeah.
Do you think your background in neuropsychology is helpful for you in terms of being able to understand people's insecurities and work with that and try to make people comfortable? Do you think that was kind of helpful in that, or it's just similar interests?
I do. I am very much a science mind, which is funny.
Wait a minute. Are you saying her father was correct?
I'm saying nothing. I'm just saying.
Oh, listen.
I'm just saying, do you find that, you know, sometimes these things happen for a reason, although you don't realize the reason at the time. So I like to always look back and see what kind of things that maybe were not my first choice that ended up being furthering me to where I wanted to be.
Yeah.
So I find those things interesting.
I love science. I love science. I love science in every facet. I find brain chemistry so intriguing. You'll probably see a lot of times I'm posting about neurotransmitters, and I do find all that very fascinating. And it can help read people and understand why people do what they do. But also just sitting and being present with somebody can do that and not talking. As awkward as it seems, but
well, that's probably when you can do it the most, to see how people react to silence or uncertainty and uncomfortable.
It's a struggle for a lot of people. And I am very vocal when I'm photographing people. And I say, you are going to hear more silence than you are going to hear me speak because XYZ. And then that way, when they're sitting there in silence, they're not feeling as though they're doing something wrong, because that's immediately where people go. If you're not speaking to them or giving them direction, they say, oh, well, what do you want me to do now? Well, what should I do now?
They need
well,
to fill in the space.
Yeah, what do I need to do now? And I feel like hearing that in a session makes me uncomfortable, because it almost it's rushing the moment versus us being a team together, capturing a moment. So I like to lay it all out and be full transparent in the very beginning, saying that silence is actually good. And unless you're doing something that is not working, I will not be guiding you.
So you're not doing weddings anymore because of the craziness of it. What is your favorite? What are you doing? What are your favorite things to photograph?
Well, I do love events, because I'm also an introvert, and it's very difficult to be in a room constantly engaging, and it's very exhausting. But as an event photographer, you can still capture the essence of a space and catch little things that are happening without having to interact. And I love that. That's A1 in my books for sure.
Nice.
I would love to capture flowers and nature, but the
flowers are not paying the bills?
No. Nature, they don't have any money.
No, birds.
No.
They're not coming at you with dollar bills. No.
And I really love working with people and working with companies and brands. And I especially love working with people who are very self-conscious.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Neat.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, you're a lot of fun. I do love your work. I've known you for a number of years, and like I said, there's just something. There's an essence in your photography. There's an essence in you. I mean, you're very
Calming.
Calming, yeah. I feel calming. That's good, Alex.
I feel calm.
I feel calm too.
I'm glad that you're calm.
We're a little nappy. We could go for a little nature walk together. But yeah, you are a calming presence.
Well, that's really nice of you to say.
Yeah. What's your big crazy dream? What's ahead for you?
Probably less is more is my big crazy dream.
I love that dream.
I really just want to turn down the noise. I love nature, as you know. I love being on my property. I love being on my property. I love cooking outside. I love spending as many moments as I can outside. I feel like the older I get, the more I just want to be outside and in the cold, which sounds really strange. I love being outside in the cold and just sitting there, just being enveloped and refreshed. And you go through, like for me, I was going through life, I just want to be somewhere hot and sunny and just so I can lay on a beach. And as I get older, I want to go to the mountains and climb.
Interesting.
Yeah. I just want to be up high and I want to be cold.
Up high and cold. That's quite the dream. That's now the name of this podcast. Yeah. Up high and cold.
I do think that we all go through, ebbs and flows of life, and it really, we're different people at different times. And sometimes we go back to the things we were, and sometimes we don't. We completely evolve, but no one is the same. And we're all very different creatures living in the same space, and we all move differently and at different moments and have different milestones, and it all seems to work. But there is a Japanese idiom word, and it's pronounced obai tori. So the idea is that people are like flowers. We all bloom at different times. And we all bloom in our different spaces and journeys. We all go at our own space. And it really is, the idea is to not compare ourselves to other people and to really accept who we are and understand our own uniqueness. So we don't all have to be moving at the same pace in order to function.
I like that a lot. Because it could also be your own cycles of when you're going to bloom too. So yeah, I think I will use that.
And as women, we're going through a lot of different cycles.
We're going through some stuff. Yeah.
And maybe that's why you want to be cold.
Maybe
that's why you want to be cold.
Maybe, but I don't know. I haven't. I'm not there yet. I don't know if I'm there yet. I don't know if I'm there yet, but I know that I'm not far.
Yes,
and I am ready.
Yeah,
I'm ready too.
I'm totally there.
I'm so ready.
And over it. Really, I'm on the other side a little bit, but it's a journey. One of the ways to combat imposter syndrome is to actually listen to how awesome the people in your life think you are. If you're looking for the perfect gift for a loved one, where you can tell them all of the things that make them special, visit my Drawbridge Creative Etsy shop and purchase a Things We Love About You custom poster. With several styles to choose from, it's a fabulous gift for any milestone birthday, anniversary, retirement, or just because.
Yeah. And we change. We change. It's a major life experience for a woman.
Yeah.
Mentally, physically, emotionally, in every facet. And
all of it. And I think we 100% need to talk about it more.
Oh, yes.
Like, we're not talking about it enough. And I know I've heard some of the older generation maybe is looking at us saying, why are you talking about this so much?
Yeah.
Because we just didn't talk about it and we just let it happen. It's because you didn't
shameful.
talk about it and let it happen. Yeah. It was shameful. We need to talk about perimenopause and menopause. It's a stage of life where it's very confusing.
It's misunderstood.
It's so misunderstood. And We have to talk about it more.
I started hormone replacement therapy in November.
Oh, you did?
I
Good.
did.
Yeah, okay.
As a proactive measure.
Yeah.
Yes, I also have.
I mean, why
life-changing.
not? It's really made a difference in the very short 5 months that I've been doing it, from a sleep perspective, especially,
Mm-hmm.
and just an overall cognitive benefit.
Yeah, because the brain fog is insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the sleep was really affecting me. So I do think that we need to talk about it more and be open, and people can't think, oh, I can't go on that until no, you want to go on that. Right now is when our bone density is depleting, and our muscle mass is depleting, and we need to hold on to everything that we can going into it.
Mm-hmm.
We quit drinking. Ted and I quit drinking 2 years ago.
I knew you had, and a lot of people are
Yeah.
are leaning that way. And through menopause, there's nothing going to bring on a hot flash faster than a glass of wine.
I bet.
And I'd be at different events. Menopause hit me a little faster than some of my friends, and I'd be at events and I'd be thinking, what is going on with me? I'm going into a full meltdown, and I'm also an introvert, so it's first of all difficult to be out there. But then I'm having a big old meltdown. I don't know what's going on with me. I'm unloading layers. It was the wine.
Mm-hmm.
If I didn't have a glass of wine, I would be a totally different person at an event. So I don't drink near what I
and
drink.
I mean, a lot of people, like when we started this whole lifestyle, it started with, I'm not going to drink this weekend. Yeah, that's just what it was. And then it turned into, we just stopped having it in the house. And then it just never came back.
Yeah.
And when we talk about it to people, the first thing someone says, and it never fails, is, well, I don't drink that much. I only drink. And you'd be surprised how much you drink.
For sure.
It's really like we were drinking a lot during COVID. I think everybody was.
Everybody, yeah.
And that really was gave us a reality check. But I think that it's a drug. It's a chemical. It's now they're wanting to put cancer warnings on it, and it's a real thing.
Yeah, it is a real thing, and it definitely affects our bodies. And when
the physical effects are one thing, but the mental effects,
the brain,
are another thing entirely.
Yeah.
And I definitely drink a lot less than I used to, barely at all.
Like brain scans, seeing brain scans, it's wild. It's
I'm still drinking some. I mean, I love sitting back and having a glass of wine lots of times, but it's not during the week.
Yeah.
And it's not, to me, it's no longer like the weekend's here now. I can have a drink. It's just, I can go weeks and weeks and weeks. And then all of a sudden, I'll have a glass of wine with you. I find I've got kombucha in my house all the time now. And I love a glass of kombucha. There's one that tastes like Prosecco, and it's got some bubbles, which I like. And I actually think that's why I liked the Prosecco to begin with, is the bubbles.
I'm a big fan of sparkling water.
Yeah. And so I love this kombucha, and it does the same thing kind of for me in the evening.
There's so many options now, non-alcoholic options that can still make you feel like you're part of a group. Because a lot about alcohol is belonging and being comfortable in social situations. At least for me, it definitely played a big part of that. So having an option where I can have a non-alcoholic beer, or bring non-alcoholic beer into it so that it's not affecting me as much, is so nice. And that just didn't really exist.
Yeah.
Except for Labatt 0.5s, which were
they are so gross.
I drank those through my pregnancy and they were horrific.
Yeah.
You did?
The labels are already peeling off, and you're just this is just so
it's
bad.
come
How
so
long has
far
this been
from
here?
those. Those were so gross.
There's a non-alcoholic bar opened up in Halifax.
I saw that.
Yeah, which is fantastic.
That's fun.
Yeah.
So it's nice. I think it's just opening up options. I know that young kids, like my son's 13, and I grew up in a small town, and we were very much thinking about drinking at 13. They are not into it. It's not. And if he has a couple kids in his class who have experimented with it, and he's horrified.
Yeah.
Whereas that was a very different mentality than I had at that time.
But to tie it back too, is alcohol can sometimes cloud perspective and make you feel, coming down from a night out and you're on your phone and you're looking at other people and you're looking at other businesses and you're just like, oh, well, I'm failing.
Right.
Yeah.
That can make this whole imposter syndrome feel worse too when you're already on a downward, the scary Sundays.
I was just going to say the Sunday
Yeah.
scaries, and that's all about, you drank all weekend and here it's Sunday and you're feeling like crap, and
Or you made
Then you look at your
or said things that
phone.
you didn't
you said
that
something,
you don't feel good about, and
you had no filter. You
Don't miss any of that.
Don't miss that.
Yeah. But I do find that the not drinking for the last 2 years has very much changed my perspective on how I look at other people's businesses. And I really don't find I compare myself to it anymore because I don't see it being of any use to me. If that makes sense.
Interesting. And why do you think that why do you think the non-alcohol?
Because I feel like I see things clearer now. I'm not going through an up and down of, because the day after drinking, like a big night out, it's not just a day. That carries through for a week.
Multiple days, yeah.
And if I had things I have to do that week, I felt like it was like looming over me and giving me anxiety and stress. And then I wasn't able to create as well as I would have if I hadn't have put myself in that situation. And I do find I was harder on myself during that recovery period. And it's because you're so emotionally and chemically depleted in your brain that nothing is good enough. You're really hard on yourself.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
So I don't have that feeling anymore. It's just not there. I go into something still with anxiety or stress, but it's more of a performance anxiety.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Great to have that byproduct,
And I think as we get older too, between menopause and drinking and all of it, lack of exercise or not eating well, or all of it impacts and can make us feel miserable.
Absolutely.
So it's all about, being, if you're on a path to want to have more self-confidence, self-esteem, those things can all help. Yeah.
Oh,
And we really do have to think about our future selves from a health-wise perspective and mental perspective. I'm in my 40s, late 40s now, but what I'm doing now is going to impact what happens to me in my 60s, 70s, and 80s. And if I'm not taking the best care of myself now, then I have no chance when I get older. You see your parents getting older and ailing and they're not doing things. My parents don't exercise. My mother has COPD and my dad eats, like he's from Newfoundland and eats like everything fried and salted and smoked that you can get into it's really bad. And I'm thinking, oh gosh, like I'm going to go from having a child to having ailing parents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do that to Vatican. So
I feel that too. Nothing puts things more into perspective than seeing your parents sick or ill. Yeah, I feel that a lot.
And they just didn't have access to the information and the education to be able to they're very much in the Western medicine. Whatever the doctor says, I have to do that. So if that means I have to take pills, then I have to take the pills versus, well, what else can I do in addition to taking the pills?
No fault on that generation at all. No judgment on our parents.
They worked with what they had.
Exactly. And I think you're right. We've got a lot more information in front of us. And, if you want to live healthy into your 70s and 80s and 90s, wouldn't it be wonderful? You see people in Italy, and they are living their best lives, and they are out walking and they're riding their bicycles and they're in their gardens and things like this. We don't see that in a Canadian culture so much because people are, we're not aging so well. So you're right. If we could make some changes at this age.
It's about health
and
span,
I've got 10 years on you,
lifespan.
so I'm going to have to double up and do a few extra things.
I think even things like changing our mentality about strength training for women at this age and putting more aspect on that rather than just like constantly doing step aerobics or whatever.
Yeah, and
our
also
parents were doing in their 40s.
Right?
Not depriving ourselves of the things we want to eat. If we want to have a pastry or we want to enjoy a bag of chips, It doesn't mean we can't do it, but
Yeah.
if we add more fiber and add more protein to our diet, then that's going to help us process those treats that we want to still give ourselves, because deprivation is not going to be sustainable.
Yeah.
But adding other macronutrients and vitamins to the diet can help push our bodies through those indulgences, if you will.
It's all about balance.
Moderation.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. This podcast is about imposter syndrome. And I think that, you know, you as this superhuman, you've given us us and our audience, some food for thought about not letting that imposter syndrome get you. I don't think you're an imposter. I think
you've just really successfully flipped the narrative to make it more of an encouragement, not encouragement, but something to get you going, motivator, a motivator rather than something to hold you back. And I think that's a really great perspective.
Yeah. And comparing yourself to yourself rather than other people, and setting your goals and realizing that you might be on a wrong path. So you're going to fix
But also
that.
stepping it back another notch too, and taking care of like the vessel of yourself so that those thoughts don't have a chance to ruminate as much, which is something we haven't really touched on. And it's a very, very good point. So I think that's great.
Yeah, we're going to have to explore that a little bit more in one of our chit chats. Yeah.
I think it's really important.
Yeah.
And I think you're the first guest that we've had that's actually touched on that. So I think, that's awesome.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. You've given us some ideas for in my head already. I'm thinking, we need to explore that a little bit more. We need to.
Well, it's encouragement. It's something I've been trying to figure out too in this age of nutrition and making those things a priority. So it's a good push for me too.
Yeah.
Something I also live by is keeping things private until it's finished.
Mm.
And I find that the world we're in right now is everyone seems like they need to document everything step by step, or they're not doing it. But if you keep some things private until they're finished, it's more of a, it's also a bit of a, well, I don't want to fail, so I don't want to talk about it until I'm truly finished. But at the same time, it's giving that little bit of element of surprise, and that we really don't get in the world anymore, because everything's instantly gratified, you know?
I like that. I like that for yourself too. Like you're keeping that like something for yourself. Because everything is
so you're giving
widely
yourself some
shared
happiness because you don't have to share everything.
So my oldest daughter is, she shares some things on social media, but she's very much similar to you in that, you know, this was a special moment, let's say, in our family. Like we just experienced something special. Why do we need to put that out to the world? Why can't we just hold that special thing in our family? Why does it need to be public? Why can't it be private? And this has been a little bit eye-opening for me, since her pregnancy and having the baby and all of these sorts of things, that I'm a big sharer, oversharer, and I'm like, put it all out there. And so to me, like not posting, everybody knows I've become a nana, but not posting photos of the baby is being respectful to her, but also it's nice.
Doesn't it give you a little bit of intimate happiness that it's yours? It's only yours, that you can share with your family.
Yeah, so this is new to me. Yeah. This is a new feeling for me the last couple of months.
It's shifting where you get your validation from.
Right.
Which is much healthier to get it internally than it is externally. A lot of us have been conditioned to look for external validation, but it's shifting that, which can be hard, but rewarding.
And it really is nice to have something that not everybody knows about, because you get to enjoy it and share it with the people you love or the friends or...
Listen, and if I'm out somewhere with friends, first thing I'm doing is showing you pictures of the baby, but putting it out there public where there's, a few thousand people that I really don't know. I mean, some of them I do know.
And they'd be so happy for you.
Yes, but this is a really special thing too. So that's very interesting to not have to share the entire process. You can just wait until it's done and then Surprise. Mind you, it only took you 2 days to build a flower shop. So you only had to keep your mouth shut for 2 days. And then it's like, hey, there's a
And
flower
Teddy
shop.
actually built
right?
me a greenhouse in those 2 days.
Oh, my goodness.
So listen,
well, when
I'm,
you only have to hold the secret for 2 days, you can do it, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
guess. But
right.
it does become very exciting when you know you're the only one that
It's
knows.
special.
There's a
Yeah.
nice little tingle that you get.
There is.
Agreed.
All right.
All right. We're finishing up. So we're
What is
doing,
this?
this is our speed round. Speed round.
Speed
We
round.
just ask you 5 questions that have nothing to do with our conversation,
Okay.
and you answer them in as few words as possible. But I don't even know why we still say
We
that
don't
because
need
we
it.
don't care
We
how
don't,
many words
we
you
don't
use.
care. Do you. Yeah.
Do I ask you questions too?
Only if
But
you
you
want.
can if you'd like. But what chore do you absolutely despise doing?
Cleaning the bathrooms.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I make my husband do that. What's your biggest pet peeve?
People who
Just let's stop it with just people. No.
scuff their feet
Uh-oh.
when they walk.
Yeah.
Do
lift
not
your
walk around
feet.
me. I
Are
am
you
a
a
scuffer.
scuffer?
Yes, I'm working on it. But I do
I've
scuff.
never
I
noticed
scuff.
you
I
scuffing.
scuff.
Oh.
Something I don't like about myself. What's your favorite holiday?
I would probably say Easter. My son was born then.
Mm.
Yeah, he was born on Good Friday.
Ooh.
Yes, on his due date.
Oh, wow. That's
Mhm.
rare.
I know.
My son was born on his due date also,
Oh,
but that is very
nice.
rare. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
nice.
Mine was not.
No.
were you a late?
No, I was 4 days early.
Oh wow!
So I was lucky.
So it was a surprise.
yeah. It's like a 24-hour
Nice.
surprise that I felt coming very, very aggressively. If you could have dinner with any fictional character, who would it be?
A fictional character, like a cartoon.
Could be
Could be.
Oh gosh.
from
Fictional
a book or a
character.
movie. Or
Somebody from a book.
what I'd answer.
Okay. Probably Captain Von Trapp.
Oh,
Mm.
Is that the Sound of Music?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I'd love to really just peel apart his brain and why he was so cranky.
Yeah. Especially with so much singing around.
well, there's
With so much
all
joy.
that joy. Maria.
So many children. If you had a time machine, would you go to the past or the future? I like that one.
Ooh, I would definitely go to the future.
How far in the future?
I'd probably go way far into the future to see how far I continue, because that is only, like, is he going to get married? Is there going to be grandchildren? Will they have children? Will they have children?
Right.
I'd like to see how long our legacy goes.
Well, I think you will have a long legacy just from your creative works that you're putting out there. And, you know, we didn't talk about the woods that you're nourishing, but
Yes.
you've got a forest out there that you're nourishing. And, you know, I think you're going to have a long legacy. So
Thank you.
I see it in the stars. There are no stars out there. I see it in the
In
fog.
the clouds.
In the clouds. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for
Yes,
having
thank
me.
you so much.
Yes, you were lovely.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of Imposter Sisters. Please remember, we're not doctors or mental health experts. If you're looking for mental health guidance, please see our show notes for local resources. Until next time, keep your head high, and we will see you next Tuesday.